Hi. Um, Welcome. I wanted to send you a quick video today from a one of you sent me a question, and as you know, when you're subscribed at a certain level, you're welcome to send me situations and questions that I am happy to speak to directly. So here's a question that came across my email inbox recently, and I'll start at the end and then I'll give you a little background and then we'll talk a little bit about options in a situation like this. So here's the question. How can I be a good daughter to a needy mother and still meet my needs for choice, independence, and freedom? And so here's a little bit of the dilemma that this person is finding herself in. Her mother is aging and is no longer able to look after herself independently. And she hasn't saved a lot of money in order to pay for expensive high-end full-duty care. And let's see, I want to just get the little bit. So here's the essence of the conflict. She says, when I am with my mom, I devote my time and effort to making her feel comfortable and safe, but not joyfully or with pleasure. It feels like a duty. Otherwise, if I didn't do it, I would feel guilty. I'd see myself as a bad daughter, a bad person, and I would judge myself as selfish. But I want my freedom. I don't want to take care of or be responsible for my mother. I'm old enough to know that my time is precious and I want to spend it doing what I want, taking care of me, doing my art, doing my teaching, not being caught up in all of these distractions, but I can't abandon my mother. So the question, how can I be a good daughter to a needy mother and still meet my needs for choice, independence, and freedom? So let's talk a little bit about how we might approach a situation like this. I'm sure all of us, let me just move these screens a little bit. I'm sure all of us have found situations where we get caught between wanting to do something for myself and also feeling an obligation and a duty to be there for somebody else. So how can we use these tools to get some internal, what did you ask for? Choice, independence, and freedom. Okay, so there's a couple of things. Well, there's actually a lot of things that I look at in a situation like this. First of all, well, let me just say it like this. This is in no specific order, but one thing you can do is you can begin detoxing all of the judgments of yourself and your mother that are coming up in the situation. So to the degree that it feels like a duty to look after her, you're going to feel resentful. So what I'd encourage you to do is figure out what kind of internal demand you are placing on yourself. And one of them, it sounds like in a situation like this, is that I don't have a choice to say no. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I said no, and therefore I have to look after her. And I'm angry with her for being dependent. To the degree that you're thinking in this way, not that it isn't true, but it really, really severely limits your options and it will leave you feeling like a victim of a situation. So the very first thing that I want you to do is simply describe for yourself, make a statement about what the reality is that you find yourself in that is not as laden with the evaluative and the interpretive aspects. So it might sound something like this. At this point in my life, I am in a situation where I want to spend a lot of time and energy on my teaching, on my artwork, and on cultivating myself. And at the same time, my mother is increasing in the amount of care and attention and needs that she has for support and nurturing from her community. She doesn't have the resources to pay for it, and so my mother is dependent upon people doing things out of the goodness of their heart. That's the statement. That's just where you sort of are at. The next thing that you want to do is I would encourage you to approve of everything that is happening. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a switch. So the first thing is, to the degree that you are in resistance to reality, you will demand yourself to submit to reality, and the entire situation will feel like a power struggle. So the first thing we want to do is detox. I've said the word first a lot. So the next thing we want to do is we want to detox the demand. And the way to do that is to become, to situate yourself in a non-resistant way with the situation. So you just approve of it. I approve of the fact that that my mom is aging and needing care. I may not like it, but I am willing to acknowledge that that is simply the reality of where I am. And I approve of the fact that I'm feeling resentful and torn up and in a power struggle about it. Like, the moment that I can make peace with the fact that I even approve of the selfish part of me that would prefer to do things only for herself. And I approve of the fact that I'm not willing to abandon my mother. And I approve of the fact that I am showing up in a way that meets my needs for being a good daughter as I define it. Whatever good means, we could unpack that. And I approve of my own desire for independence and freedom and choicefulness. And I approve of my desire to be a good daughter. And I can approve, maybe if you can get here, I approve of the fact that my mother is needy, physically and practically needy in a way that she hasn't been before. And now I'm going to extrapolate a little bit because I don't know enough about a lot of your history, but I'm imagining that your mother has been needy through your childhood in many ways other than now. And that there have been ways in which your own needs in relationship to your mother have not been very well met through your life. And the reason that I'm speculating that is because commonly, when we've grown up in families where we have felt deeply cared for and nurtured by our parents, we have a lot of resourcefulness when they're aging to offer that back because it feels reciprocal. So when we get to this part of life, when it's not feeling reciprocal and we're actually feeling resentful, it often tells me that there's been a legacy of the parent not meeting the child's needs that is turning the situation into more of a flashpoint. Now, that may or may not be true. You can let me know. But in situations where, let's just say for a while that your parents didn't meet your needs well enough, then working on approving of that reality as well can be another step. I approve of the fact that I know that my needs haven't been well met by my mother. I approve of the fact that I know that I have longed to have my own needs prioritized in my relationship with my mother. So whatever it is that is stirring up conflict within you, try to approve of everything. And you could use a different word if you prefer, that you appreciate it. That can mean different things depending on what part of the world you're in. But you're looking for some kind of an internal positioning where you are simply willing to work with things as they are. To the degree that we think it shouldn't be this way, to the degree that we have any kind of an idea that it shouldn't be like this, she shouldn't be sick, she shouldn't be needy, I shouldn't have to look after her, I shouldn't have to give up my time. Any of that thinking is actually where we lose access to our empowerment and our personal power in the situation. And you want to claim your power back, okay? Because the three powers you're looking for are your power to choose, your power to be independent, and your power to be free. Those are the three things that you're really longing for. And in a situation like this, if you're also wanting to be a powerfully good daughter who is there for her mother, then we want to bring that piece in as the 4 different powers that you're going to bat for on your own terms, in a way that feels good to you at this point in your life, given the limitations of the history and the context and all of the different things that can get triggered inside of you in response to the situation. A lot of the suffering in a situation like this comes from feeling, let me say it like this, it comes from getting caught in the illusion that you don't have a choice. To the degree that you think you have to, you're going to suffer more. So if we can pull a step back and talk about what needs of yours get met by showing up for your mother. What needs of yours get met by showing up in integrity with your own definition of what it means to be a good daughter. So another thing you could do is you could unpack for yourself a little bit, what does good daughter actually mean? Because the little girl in us will believe that it means compliant and obedient and self-sacrificing for the needs of other people. And I'd encourage you to update that definition if that definition still lives inside of you. A good daughter could be a loving daughter who makes empowered choices when she could give herself permission to abandon her mother. She could give herself permission to not be there for her mother and to take the approach of, you didn't meet my needs, honey. This is karma. You go ahead now and you live your lonely old, adulthood, because this is what you get when you don't meet the needs of other people. If that feels like it's in integrity with your truest and wisest self, you'd be behaving that way. But because this for you, I believe, is much more about who you want to be in the world, then I'd encourage you to really own and take charge of the situation because of who you are in the world, because of the resourcefulness you have in the world, because of the journey you've been on in the world. And you get to be a good daughter by your definition, who's not compliant. She's choiceful, and she's free, and she's loving, and she has every ability to be independent and walk away. And she's choosing not to. And the reason she's choosing not to is because there are values that you have that are deeply important to you. So you can find a way forward with your mom on your terms. And that's a lot of internal work. So you mentioned sort of guilt. Guilt is a sense of like, it's anger turned inwards. It's like, I wasn't able to set a boundary outside of me. I wasn't able to say no outside of me. So what then happens is I can't say no inside of me either. So what you might want to start playing with the guilt piece is getting comfortable with saying no. Maybe not with your mother. That's really up to you. It might be with your mother, but it might be a larger theme in your life where you don't give yourself permission to say no's that would actually be good for you. And so then in a high stakes situation like this, where you long for those no's to come back, it's as if they finally emerge in a situation where you don't want to give yourself permission to say no because of a whole ton of other needs that you legitimately have in how you want to end and roll out the conclusion of your relationship with mom. All right, so if we were sitting and talking, I of course would be sort of checking out what's actually landing, where am I on the right track, where am I not? When I'm answering these questions a little bit out of context, I can point to some archetypal themes, and I can give you some ideas in terms of where you might begin to re-empower yourself. So hopefully this is a good start, and this is helpful to some degree. You will need a lot of empathy from places other than mom. So I hope you have a good community of people who can fill you up and meet the needs that mom didn't meet. It's like you've got to go and find a bunch of surrogate moms who can fill you up with yummy, nurturing, mothering energy so that you have that to take back to biological mom, who likely didn't give you enough of that yourself. She didn't fill you up enough for you to feel generous about going back and filling her up. But the beauty about being interdependent humans is that we can get those needs met from a variety of other sources. We're never only dependent on a mother or a father as the only two sources. They become critically important, but they're not our only choice. So go get some empathy, find a community of support, work with some of the ideas that you're in resistance to, meaning like give yourself permission to abandon her. And once you have full permission to abandon her, see if that's a choice you want to make. Give yourself full permission to be selfish. And once you can absolutely embrace being a bad person, a bad daughter, as you're defining it, which in this case is like selfish, once you've given yourself complete permission to be selfish, find out if that's a choice that you still want to make. But come at the situation from as much awareness and choicefulness as you can, and approach it not from, I have to do it in order to avoid judgment, but instead approach it from, I'm choosing to do these things because they're in alignment with who I want to be in the world, because I'm doing them out of a sense of integrity with my own values about who I am. Okay, feel free to send me follow-up questions on this. You can write some comments below the video. I'm happy to send some follow-up stuff if this is helpful. And in the meantime, good luck. Okay, I'll talk to you guys next time.